Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. We just hit 35,000 subscribers. Can we get to 36K and beat LTE? Please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel. But before we get started, I'd like to take some time out of my day to tell you guys about My Patriot Supply. As Americans, we need to be prepared, and that includes avoiding the long lines at the grocery store by stocking up on disaster food supply. And there is no better disaster food kit than the ones over at American-made My Patriot Supply. Take action so you're ready for what's coming and save $100 on a 4-week emergency food kit when you go to my special website, preparewithredeagle.com. Those that know what's coming are preparing today. Go to preparewithredeagle.com. That is preparewithredeagle.com. Anyways, guys, today we have to talk about Joe Biden and basically the fallout from his allegations that have been levied against him. And it honestly is going a little bit under the radar, but it is something that we have to talk about. So Donald Trump in the betting odds, let's say a couple days ago, was roughly around, beating Biden 48 to 45. This has now changed. The odds makers are now favoring Trump more than they have in recent weeks. And right now, Trump is leading Biden by 8 percentage points, which is weird because he's down by 5 in the polls, but odds makers are still favoring him to win, which is a good thing. So all the leftists out there that say, oh, you're not being unbiased, saying Trump can't win. Well, I admit there's a bias, but at the same time, the data is showing that Donald Trump right now is probably in a lot better shape than what some of this early polling data is showing. And the betting odds, the odds makers, the people that are putting their money on the line are agreeing with me on this, and they're basically saying that Trump has a very good chance at beating Biden, and Trump's lead over Biden in the betting odds is not shrinking. In fact, it is growing, which is beneficial to Trump, and we'll see how it plays out in the coming weeks and months. But right now, the betting odds makers are still confident that Donald Trump is going to win. If anything, they're more confident than ever, which is actually a good thing. Think back to 2016, where Trump never led in the betting odds. Now he's leading in the betting odds. That is a good thing. Definitely. If you look at the Real Clear Politics polling average, we can already see a minimal effect of the fallout. And think about this. Hillary Clinton in October 2016 was up by over 7 percentage points. Right now, Biden is up by 5.3. Trump is only at 42%, he was a little bit higher than that, I think roughly around that range when he actually won. The only difference is Biden is a little bit higher than Clinton, but he's falling. Biden was at 48.4, now he is at 47.4. This almost ties his low that he had back in mid-April. Now he is almost back down to that, while Donald Trump has actually stabilized himself at 42%. Trump had eventually been higher in the polls, but so was Biden. There was once a time where Biden was at 53%. That has now gone down to 47%. So since before October in 2019, the height of the impeachment, it's really seemed to hurt Biden. Biden was at 53%. Now Biden is at 47%. That's a net -6. Trump was up a little bit. Now he's down. A lot of that has to do with media controversies. They're taking some statements out of context here and there. We know what's going on about that. But still, it is symbolic, and there are potentially more things to come, especially when we look at the aggregate. The IBD tip poll had Biden up by 6. Now it shows a tie. That is a big movement. That is a big development. The Economist poll shows it relatively stabilizing, although that is an outlier. In many polls, Trump's approval rating went up last week. However, The Economist actually showed it went down. But even so, Biden's approval still went down from 48 to 47, and it actually showed in the Biden approval poll that Biden's in the negative. In terms of Trump's job approval versus Biden's favorability, Trump's job approval is right now around 45. Biden's favorability is around 43%. So if you look at that, you can basically see that unlike in 2016, where Trump was behind 4 points to Hillary Clinton in the approval rating, now Trump is ahead of Biden by a few points. That's going to help him long term. The problem is Biden is like -1 net approval and Trump is -6. That can change. Biden is going to have to be in the media more, and that's probably what's going to drop his campaign. Definitely not being in the media for a couple weeks has shown his aggregate to go up by 1 point, but then he has to come back and defend himself against allegations and potentially spread falsehoods. We have to look into that. Biden's out here saying that there's no records that would be at the Delaware University. They're saying that they're in the National Archives, but a lot of experts have come out and disputed that and said there's no way they would be in the National Archives. So it's very interesting. because unlike past accusers of past political candidates like Trump, Kavanaugh, these people seem like they don't have a political agenda, and they actually seem like they are being consistent with their story and corroborating their allegations fairly well compared to allegations made against other politicians in the past. So that's very interesting about that. So obviously, I think that this will sink Biden more than it will sink Trump, especially because Biden is running on morality, and it's going to be a damper to his campaign that he's able to sit here and try to brush off the allegations brushed his way while levying allegations against Trump of misconduct, of being the so-called not normal candidate. How can you return to normal with a guy like Joe Biden? Plus, his energy and enthusiasm levels are absolutely terrible, and this is bringing down his campaign. If Biden is below 50% right now, that means Trump has a chance at winning the popular vote. This obviously means things can change. There's a lot of room for movement. If Trump consolidates his base where it was at his peak at 45.6 and Biden remains where he's at now, 47.4, and you do the math there, maybe Biden wins the popular vote 48-46 like what Hillary did, that means Trump gets reelected president. So definitely Trump needs to do a good job of consolidating his base, and Biden apparently just needs to do damage control, but it doesn't seem like it's going to work in his favor because he's continually dropping in the polls. Despite the fact that he is the nominee, he should have a united party just like Trump does, and he really doesn't at the moment. And obviously, you look at the primary turnout, it was a little bit higher, but so was Trump's. Trump had very high primary turnout. It was fairly high for an incumbent. It blew Obama's 2012 incumbent popular vote total out of the water. So very interesting developments we see here with the Biden campaign, and he's going to have to keep answering to this and defending himself because, in my opinion, I think that this very well could be the tip of the iceberg for Biden. You saw another woman come out, a 14-year-old woman, saying Biden commented on her breasts, and honestly, I'm very interesting to see more facts, but when I've seen Biden, when I've seen the way that Biden actually comments about women, he always says, how old are you? 14, or if it's somebody's like 14, he'll be like, how old are you? 25? And then he's like, oh, you look older for 25. So very well could be possible that that's a legitimate accusation. I'd like to see more data. I'd like to see more corroboration because I'm not going to be the type of individual that's going to blindly believe all women like what the Democrats said about Kavanaugh. I'm just trying to hold people to their own standards. Apparently the women that are coming forward are Democrats. They're not doing this for political gain. So they have to be looked into, obviously. It definitely seems like Biden's the type of handsy guy, so he's probably going to get these allegations levied against him from people, whether they were actually intentionally meant to be sexually aggressive or not, doesn't matter. He's going to have to deal with it. He's going to have to answer to it. Basically, the Democrats once again shot themselves in the foot by picking a weak candidate like Weak Joe, Sleepy Joe, Sloppy Joe, whatever you want to call him. He's proving himself to be a fairly weak candidate, and it's showing. Right now, Trump's approval rating his approval rating's 45. Assuming he gets all the approval rating people on board, he'll be down 45-47. So that's a winnable game. It's anybody's game. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let any of these early polls tell you otherwise. This is anybody's game in this election. Donald Trump very well could lose at the end of the day. But right now, it seems like it's going to be a close race. If we go to the state polls and you look at Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, they're going to show Biden with a lead. North Carolina actually has Trump up, which is a good sign because early polls in North Carolina typically favor the Dems. But if you look at early polling data from 2016, I think right at this point, Trump was down by 5 or 6. He eventually led by the end of May for like a day. Then he started to go back down again. He led after the conventions, and after that, it was basically all Hillary. But Trump narrowed the gap to 3 in the polling aggregate. He ended up losing the election by 2% in the popular vote. So it really does seem like this is going to be anybody's game. We'll monitor the state polls. We'll analyze the state polls. We'll weight the state polls. Speaking of state polls, interesting to see if statepolls.com actually wants to update the poll analysis, but we have other methods to do it, and I'm basically going to be analyzing the polls myself. I'm going to be making my own website. Stay tuned for that. Hopefully, I'll be able to get that out within the next couple of weeks. I'll probably work on it a little bit this weekend. Next weekend, probably work a lot on it, finalize it, and then the next weekend, hopefully, I'll get that out to you guys. So Right now, basically, it's showing, and it's minimal, and these effects could very well be big. Biden's approval rating very well could dip significantly in terms of the two-way polling. Biden could dip into the low 40s, and maybe Amash could be that third wheel. Maybe Amash could gain some steam out of this, especially from the suburban people. I think that a lot of Biden's core supporters, in terms of the urban areas and college towns, they're going to stick with him. The far left people, in terms of economics that he has, are going to stick with him, although their tolerance level for him is low already. Amash is pretty, far right in terms of actually being a little bit too far right when it comes to economics in order to win the election. But a lot of the suburban people, a lot of the old Romney coalition that backed Hillary Clinton would actually, a lot of them could go on the Amash train. People like, the Bill Kristol type, some of those people, they could go on the Amash train, and Amash could be taking more votes away from them. We talk about Amash's implications on the election, and honestly, I do believe that Amash takes more away from Biden than he takes away from Trump. So basically, I tweeted this a few days ago when Amash was announcing that he was going to run. I said Justin Amash wants to mass cut entitlement programs, not just cut them a little bit like, Trump would probably do. He wants to cut them a lot, which, again, you might have an argument and say that's a good thing for a balanced budget, but it's going to be extremely unpopular, especially among a populist candidate's base. He wants the globalist free trade scam deals, the things like the TPP and NAFTA. He sucks up to the government that did this mess, China. That's kind of why he left the Republican Party. A lot of it had to do with Trump's tariffs with China. It hurt his businesses. He's kind of corrupt in that manner. The guy literally wants to abolish ICE and take "In God We Trust" off of our money. There's no way that he's going to take away votes en masse away from Trump, especially in swing states. I don't care if he's from Michigan, and him dropping out of the congressional race to run, assuming he does it, guarantees another flip for the Republicans in Michigan's 3rd district, and will also help Trump out in a 269 tie scenario, as Republicans would be able to have more leverage in terms of gaining on a state delegation. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media, donate to the Patreon and subscribe star, links in description. Join the Discord and subreddit, links in description as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.